Hi, Haunted Heart fans. I'm Quill, and I'm one of the co-creators of The Tarot Reading. If you're in DC, I've got an experience for you. The Tarot Reading is an interactive variety show performing May 9th through the 26th, and I guarantee you have never seen anything like it. In it, eclectic artists perform variety show acts, each inspired by the tarot mythos. Each act is interactive and made for one adventurous and consenting audience member. What happens next can be almost anything. We've done seances, belly dances, mad science experiments, stand-up routines, role-playing games, Gestalt dream analysis, and that weird one involving a suitcase full of spam, just to name a few. Each one is always completely honest, totally amazing, and never happens the same way twice. So, if you believe in the magic that happens in unexpected places, please come experience the tarot reading. That's May 9th through the 26th in DC. You can find out more at thetarotreading.org. That's the tarot, T-A-R-O-T, reading.org. Don't forget to bring a sacrifice. I'm serious, I won't let you in without a sacrifice.
Neighbors claimed they practice witchcraft.
Quiet. Everything will be fine.
Here goes nothing.
Really?
Yeah.
Seriously, nothing.
Truer words could not have been spoken.
It's kind of an aesthetic at this point.
You think
It's
so?
an art form. I think we're developing it. I think we're pioneering the art form.
I just heard pies. That's literally all I heard was pies. Pies?
I found out about a boozy pie shop that's opening in Austin. Apparently, sometime soon. I don't know what it's called, but if you Google boozy pie shop Austin, you will see it. It is, and see, I thought it was a place that sold pie and also like was a bar so that you could like eat pie, drink alcohol.
Makes sense, yeah.
Right, like Dangerously Delicious Pies in DC, where we
Yes.
had our first live show. However, it's actually the one in Austin, like it's pies that are made with booze.
Ah.
So it's like a bourbon pecan pie. They had a blueberry basil limoncello fucking pie. And I was like...
So you can just get fucking drunk AF on pie.
I think when you cook alcohol, it loses the alcoholiness. But depending on... I don't think you cook pie that much. You definitely...
Right, that's what I'm saying.
might be.
And then also, like, you have fruits, blueberries. Like, it has to absorb the alcohol.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know. Get back to us on it. If we have any listeners in Austin, go to this fucking boozy pie shop, get the blueberry basil limoncello fucking pie, and let me know how it is.
you know we do.
Let me know if you get
because
drunk.
You know Big T is all about us. You know,
Yeah.
we love the Big T.
Texas loves that. Big
lots
T.
of love.
Big testosterone. Hey. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We do love tea, actually. Both of us do.
That is very, very true. So, how's it been, guys? It's been a minute. It's been a week since we've been with you last.
It's been a week, yeah.
Yeah, but, you know, lots can happen in 7 days.
It's true. What's her face can come out of some more can come out of the fucking like well and drag your soul to hell.
The It Chapter 2 trailer.
Samara?
Fucking
Samara. I said Samora. Samara.
But the It Chapter 2 trailer
Very good.
was released.
One of the best
Amazing.
scenes, one of the best written scenes in the book. I mean, unless 13-year-old gangbangs are your thing. Hopefully they're not. If they are your thing, go ahead and check yourself into a facility. Do us all a favor.
Get help.
Get a full workup done.
I just feel like Jessica Chastain was like the perfect cast.
For sure. I mean, but I cast her right after I saw the first one, and I heard. Well, I mean, I kind of knew too because I read the book before I watched it, and obviously I've seen the other ones, but I knew that we were going to have adult versions of these kids.
Yeah.
And the minute that I saw the like child version, I was like, she grows up to be Jessica Chastain. I'm excited about Bill Hader because I have a fucking burning white hot sexual infatuation with Bill Hader.
With Bill Hader?
Bill motherfucking Hader. If you have never seen, do yourself a fucking favor and Google Bill Hader Tauntaun impression and just have a great time.
I'm going to do that after the episode.
He is such a proto nerd. I fucking love him. He's wildly attractive to me, and I don't know why. In every way, but I'm just letting you know, Bill Hader. Hey, I'm here. I'm here for you.
Are you on his LinkedIn already?
I'm here to appreciate you. I don't think he has a LinkedIn. I think he's too famous for LinkedIn, unfortunately.
So, we have an invocation this week.
We do. We have business.
Another one.
To attend to.
Another one.
Y'all
one.
keeping us on that DJ Khaled flow.
Another one.
But not on the DJ Khaled, I don't eat pussy flow, because...
That's true. That's fucked up. And this guy's coming from someone who doesn't eat pussy.
That's true. Maybe you're on that flow. Nah, it's some bullshit right there. I feel the same way Nicki Minaj feels about that shit. Ain't no fat boy telling me what he ain't eating.
That's true. That is very true.
You better take this.
So who are we invoking today?
We are invoking our brand new cannibal cult member, Emily R. So oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, yet again, another cannibal cult member.
Y'all, I'm going to tell you what, y'all some hungry motherfuckers. Y'all ain't DJ Khaled. Y'all all about eating people, aren't you?
Yeah.
So you guys know the drill. We have a candle that we have dressed with health, wealth, and happiness just for Emily R. as a way to welcome her to our Haunted Heart family and to say thank you so much for her generosity on the Patreon. We will light the candle. It will sit by our mics through the end of the episode, but always and forever in our dark, dark hearts. So let's get a move on, shall we?
Mm-hmm.
And there we go. A little bit of ASMR for you.
Now, please put the fire out. Katie.
I'm going to put it out.
Okay.
It's fine.
Okay.
I feel like that'd be bad vibes,
Oh my
though,
God.
if Emily R's candle burned our fucking home down. I feel like that would be some bad
You know what,
juju.
though? I feel like that's where we're headed.
Maybe.
One
But
day.
it won't be Emily R's fault or any of our beautiful Patreons. Now, if you are interested in an invocation on the show or any of the fabulous Patreon benefits that you get from being a member of our Patreon, a.k.a. the Heathen Temple, you can head on over to patreon.com/thehauntedheart and check it the fuck out. How about that?
I love it.
How
Very
about that?
professional. On
100%.
brand. Definitely on brand. So I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about the tarot reading. So I know you've heard their promo at the top of our episodes for, the past few episodes. So Katie and I actually went to their opening night and had an amazing time. It was such a truly unique experience. And for me personally, I just felt it was very thought-provoking, but it was also like, it kind of hit the nail on the head for me, like as far as some things that I've been working through, which was really interesting for me because for those of you who don't know, I do consider myself a novice tarot reader. And it just sort of harkened back to like a personal reading that I would have done for myself.
Right.
And I just had a really great time. And it was amazing getting to witness other people's, what do they call them? Oh gosh.
I want to call it like a revelation, but I don't think it was. I'm not sure what the word is that they
There's
use.
a word. There's a specific word for each individual one, but I can't think of it right now.
All I can think of is a revelation because that's kind of how it felt from the experience. So you can go and you can either get a ticket to be a witness, which means you sit in the audience and you kind of watch what's happening. You watch the performances. You kind of experience it. as a witness, as somebody who's looking on. And then there are seeker tickets, where if you sign up to be a seeker and you indicate that when you purchase a ticket to the show, then you actually get to participate in the different like movements of the show, and you're kind of you are on stage as much as there is a stage. You're in the performance space, and you kind of get to experience it with the performer kind of in the moment. It's very cool. If you're the type of person who gets a little freaked out at participation and shit like that and audience participation, it's not what you think it will be. I would challenge folks, if you are in the DC area, it's at Anacostia Arts Center. I would highly encourage all of our local people to check it out because it is very cool. I guarantee you will not have seen anything like this before. It will be a totally new and fresh experience for you.
Yeah, and also it's different every show too,
yes,
because you have different people, and they are called Revelations.
They are called Revelations.
Yeah,
Great,
they are called
yay.
Revelations.
Okay, well they're aptly named because that's how it felt.
It did feel like a revelation. So each show is going to be unique, according to your own experience, and it was just a lot of fun, and it was just something different and fresh, and yeah, like it was just a really good time. I think everybody should check it out, and I think we actually had two Haunted Heart fans.
We did.
Show up. So
yes,
thank you guys for showing up.
100% showing up and showing out. Representing.
Yes.
Representing. So you do have a little bit more time to see the show. It runs through May 25th. Tickets are between $7 and $21, depending on how involved you want to be. It runs Thursday through Saturday evenings at 7:30. There's also a Saturday matinee at 2, and then there's a Sunday evening show at 5, and that is at the Anacostia Arts Center in DC. If you do want to go, you have to bring a sacrifice, and you can read more about that on the tarot reading website. And that's all we have to say about it, because we don't want to give anything away. But we wholeheartedly encourage you guys to go. We are not paid to promote the show. I know some of the folks who are involved. They're very dear to me, but I would not tell you to go see the show if we didn't sincerely believe that it would be a revelation of sorts for you.
Yeah, totally.
So definitely go do that. It's worth your time. Go see live theater.
Totally.
Specifically this live theater. So I think that's housekeeping.
I do believe that's all of the housekeeping. We've done dusted the furniture and swept the floors, and I think it's time to get into some shit.
Out the corners.
Get into some shit.
And
what are we talking about?
We have got some shit for you this week. So this week, I've been looking at this story for a really long time. It's something that I wanted to discuss on the show. We've had it on our kind of like ideas list or topics list or whatever for a really long time, but I was having significant trouble trying to figure out how to fit this fucking thing into a theme. Because we love our themes here.
We do.
We're a theme party.
Yes, we love a theme. A theme helps us stay organized. It helps us, set the mood.
Mm-hmm. We're party people. That's what happens. This is what happens when party planners have a podcast.
This is true.
It becomes a theme.
Yeah. Especially when one of those is a raging homosexual.
Yeah. The other one
and
is
actually
half
raging. Like literally raging.
Raging. Not like extreme, but like literally the definition of rage.
Aggressively.
Like I have to take pills. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, so I had this case on my list for a really long time, but I just couldn't find a theme to work it in with because it just wasn't anything that I tried to kind of work it in with just felt really kitschy. And Kenny had a hell of a week, so I was like, let me just cover this case and we'll talk about it. Because this is a case that some of you may know, some of you may not know. For those of you who do not know, it is a really unfortunate story, but it is interesting, I think, from a psychological perspective. So we're kind of going to approach it that way. I will go ahead and give trigger warnings up top. if you have any sort of issues with sexual abuse, rape, torture, confinement, anything like that, this is going to be a tough story for you. So trigger warning up top. We're going to deal with some of those subjects. They do come into play in this case. And if you need to tap out, all good. Just fast forward. We'll give you a stay spooky sign off at the end and we'll be all good. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yep.
But for those of you who decide not to skip, we're going to talk about the girl in the box. Have you heard of the girl in the box case?
I don't. I believe so.
Okay.
I think so. I want to say yes.
Very definitive.
Maybe, possibly. Yeah, no.
Okay.
But maybe.
Excellent. I'm surprised that it actually doesn't get more coverage than it has had. A lot of the super popular true crime podcasts, I don't believe, have covered this case. I could be completely wrong, and I probably am pretty wrong. But I don't hear this one talked about as often as we hear some other cases. But I think it's fascinating in a really dark, horrible way. But it's also very sad. So it's the story of Colleen J. Stan. So Colleen was born on December 31st in 1956 in Eugene, Oregon. And she lived there with her parents for 20 years. And then on May 19th, 1977, Colleen was hitchhiking from her home in Eugene, Oregon to a friend's home in Northern California to attend a birthday party. Now, back in the 70s, people made questionable fucking decisions.
You think?
I'm looking at you, chubby shorts for men.
No, those
I'm
are still
looking at you, Burt Reynolds mustache.
No, I'm gonna tell you what. Sidebar. I know we're getting into some heavy topics.
Immediate
but
sidebar.
Immediate sidebar. I was walking through the mall and saw a chubby short store.
A store? A whole store with nothing but chubby shorts
with
in it?
nothing but chubby shorts. Yes. Horrible. Horrendous. Disgusting. I went in immediately.
Did you try anything on?
No. Horrible.
Oh, you should have tried something on and
Horrible.
sent me pictures.
Absolutely loved it, though.
Absolutely loved it.
No.
Horrible, but
Also,
loved it.
someone came in and asked me for a member if we carried members only jackets, and I was like, "Sir,
It's been a while. Where have you been, darling?
sir, let me take you to where the members only."
Oh my. Ooh, interesting. Yeah. No, here's my thing with chubby shorts. The short shorts that they used to wear in the 70s, if you have no idea what we're talking about when we say chubbies. We're not talking about fat people because we love fat people. We do. Fat people.
We are of the fat people variety.
Yes. No, chubbies were like super short shorts that people wore in the 70s for some reason. I'm almost certain that they were invented by a homosexual with a fucking vendetta. Specifically against like preppy men in the South.
Me in the 70s.
He was like, I'm going to design the most fucking homoerotic thing that you can think of, and I'm going to market it specifically to straight, white, upper class Southern males.
Mm-hmm.
And it fucking worked.
And it still rings true today. Who do you see in chubbies? Fucking straight bros, man.
Yep. It's
straight bros on the DL, though, most of the time.
On the DL. Yeah. On that DL. Aren't all of us kind of on various levels of the DL, though? Think about it.
I'm just on various levels of hell at this moment. So, I think, is there a difference? I don't know. Y'all let me know. So anyway,
anywho, getting back to Colleen. So, it's the 70s. People hitchhike. It was a thing kind of everywhere, but particularly in the Pacific Northwest. Colleen apparently hitchhiked really often, and she considered herself to be a good judge of character when it came to hitchhiking, right? So she's trying to get to this friend's home in Northern California to attend this birthday party, and she actually lets two other cars go past because they were men. Like there was one car in particular. I've watched quite a few interviews with her. And she mentioned that there was a car that was full of like 5 guys and they were, kind of rowdy, just, what you would imagine. She's like, they were a little bit rowdy and they were like, oh, get in, we'll take you wherever you want to go. We'll take you wherever you want to go. And she's like,
are you going to take me to Five Guys? Because that's where I want to go.
100%. Burgers and fries, babe.
Burgers and fries before you get these thighs.
100%. 100%. So she waved them on and, didn't think that she said she just didn't think that was a good idea. Right. So she's not being dumb about it.
Right.
But after kind of waving those folks on, she accepts a ride from 23-year-old Cameron Hooker. She said that she felt comfortable getting into Hooker's blue van because his wife, 19-year-old Janice Hooker, and their baby were in the car as well. So it's a whole family. Mm-hmm. And she's thinking, okay, like I'm safe. She did that thing that women do, myself included. I've also been guilty of this when I was younger before I became a fucking freak of nature who studied so much fucking true crime that I don't trust any goddamn body anymore. I don't even trust Kenny.
Yeah, that's true.
And he's sitting across from me. And he's had plenty of opportunities to kill me in the past 10 years.
You're right.
But he's playing that fucking long game and I know it. Anyway. She saw a woman in the car and a baby, even a baby. Like, yeah. I feel like nowadays we don't trust women either. Like that whole thing has been fucking broken somewhat. But if there's a fucking baby in the car, like, I don't know that I would even be discerning enough to be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't.
Right.
So it's this whole family. She gets in the car. They're fine. They actually stopped at a gas station shortly afterwards, and Colleen went inside to use the restroom. And she had that thing that we all have when we're doing something, when we put ourselves in a position of danger. She had that like instinctual, she described it in interviews as maybe like the voice of God or the voice of an angel or whatever. But she said that she heard this voice that was telling her to run and jump out of a window and never look back. But there was really no reason. She couldn't put a reason to it. She didn't really know why. She was kind of like weirded out or freaked out or anything. So ultimately she, pulled herself together, calmed down, and went back to the car. And I don't know if like maybe she left her purse in the car and she was like, look, I can't just be a crazy person running around without a purse. I can't leave all my shit in their car. Like, I need to like get myself together. Or I'm just being irrational, whatever. All that shit that we tell ourselves. But when that instinctual voice or vibe or whatever rises in you, there's a fucking reason. Mm-hmm. Please listen to it.
Yeah.
Because if it turns out that later the person was totally fine and you're just a crazy person who jumped out a window and ran away, then whatever. At least you're an alive crazy person who jumped out of a window and ran away.
True.
Right?
Yeah, totally.
Like, be crazy. Don't give a fuck what people think about you. Sometimes you just got to be crazy, and that's fine. Because the vast majority of people don't fucking matter.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, if you're in a job interview, maybe, maybe don't do that.
Maybe don't jump out of the window. But
if that person doesn't control your money or your happiness, fuck them. Who gives a shit if they think you're crazy? Anywho. Colleen did the thing where she said, I'm being irrational. Let me calm down, chill out. And she went back to the car. Once they, take off down the road, still headed towards Northern California. And once the traffic kind of thins out, Cameron Hooker pulls off the highway and then puts a knife to Colleen's throat. And then he puts what has been referred to as a head box over her head. And it was this 20-pound thing that was on hinges that opened up that he placed over her head that was designed to prevent light, sound, and fresh air from entering.
Holy shit.
And then he drives home to their house, basically. When they get home, the head box is removed Colleen is blindfolded still, and she's led downstairs to a cellar where she was tied to the ceiling by her wrists, and then she was beaten, electrocuted, whipped, and burned. She would spend the better part of the next 7 years this way, from 1977 to 1984, living as a prisoner and sex slave of Cameron and Janice Hooker.
What do you even like? What do you even say? Like 7 years.
Yeah. Yes. 7 years. So, prior to Colleen's kidnapping, Cameron Hooker, a lumber worker at Diamond International Lumber Mill, had reached an agreement. And this is one of the weirdest parts of the case, this like weird social contract between Cameron Hooker and Janice Hooker. And there's a lot of backstory here. Janice Hooker, when they met, was very, 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 very sheltered. Apparently, as a child, she had had some form of epilepsy. I don't know how severe it was because I never heard it mentioned as an issue for her as an adult. But as a child, she struggled with that, and I think that may have caused her parents to become overprotective. She couldn't wear, like, bikinis. She couldn't date boys. She couldn't even wear shorts. And we're talking, like, California. Like, it's fucking
California
hot.
in the 70s.
Right.
At that. Or, well,
right.
probably before that. Though.
And she wasn't even allowed to wear shorts. So we're talking severely sheltered. She meets Cameron Hooker. He asks her, in fact, when he first asked her out, one of the FBI agents who profiled the case was telling a story that when Cameron first asked Janice out, she told him that he would have to get permission from her parents because she wasn't allowed to date boys. And he actually went to her parents' house and talked her parents into allowing him to date her. And then they ended up getting married. But the thing about Cameron is that Cameron had some issues around sex, particularly of the sadomasochistic kind. And this happens every time we profile or every time you come across a case that involves sadomasochistic fantasies or somebody having fantasies about, tying people up and torturing them and shit like that. It always gets tied into BDSM. And a lot of times on some of the, particularly the older documentaries, they term sadomasochistic, extreme sadomasochistic behavior as BDSM, and that's not correct. So BDSM is a consensual, both parties consenting to engaging in bondage play. The word play is really important. It's used a lot in the BDSM community. The word play reinforces the idea that it's two people or more people, however many people.
Yeah.
But everybody's consenting and we're playing a game. You may be restrained, but you are restrained as an element of the game.
Yeah, and I think that even so, like, there are certain levels, because, like, for example, I watched a video on Facebook, so you know it was great, where you had a couple who were sort of profiled for, like, a series on extreme love, where it was sort of like a 24/7, like, slave and master type situation between the two.
Right.
The master would sometimes, like, hit her or whatever, but it was all consensual.
Right.
And she used it as sort of like, she had some issues with her body and, like, eating disorders, and it was sort of able to help her cope with certain things, and so almost sort of like therapy for her in a way.
The thing about BDSM, I mean, like, y'all know which mother gets down. But the thing about BDSM is it's not, people who are not part of that counterculture see it as something that's about aggression, that's about violence, that's about, torture or whatever, however far you want to take that thought. But it's 100% not about that. It's absolutely about consent, and it's absolutely about respect, and it's absolutely about knowing exactly and having specific conversations to understand exactly where limitations are, and then play within those boundaries and kind of explore different things, but it's built on a foundation of consent.
Yeah.
And the person who's actually in control
is the
submissive.
Because
The
rules.
minute that the minute that the dominant party senses anything amiss in the submissive, usually there's a safe word, things like that. But even, I mean, if it's a good dom, even if there's like one muscle flinches wrong, and it's done, that's it.
Right.
Totally pull the plug. Like, that's it. And I think a lot of times when we have these psychopaths who are interested in things of that nature, they're not focused on the consent part of things.
No.
They're not focused on
They're not there to take
play.
care of the...
They're there to hurt someone.
Yeah.
And in the BDSM community, those people are sussed out really quickly, and then they're blackballed. That's it. Like, nobody fucks with you anymore because that's not what they're about.
Right.
So I feel like that was a little bit of a tangent, but I felt like it's really important to me to clarify that in cases like this, because so often, especially on out-of-date documentaries, you see BDSM, the things that we're going to talk about in this case, referred to as like being some growth out of BDSM or whatever. And I just want to clearly establish that like BDSM is something totally different.
Yeah,
totally safe and totally fine and groovy.
Yeah, it's important to acknowledge the differences.
Right. So, unfortunately, Cameron Hooker was a motherfucker who didn't give a rat's ass about consent, and in fact got off on non-consensual sexual activity. So he was working at Diamond International Lumber Mill, and he basically reached an agreement with Janice, his wife. Janice wanted to have kids, right? And Cameron wanted to act out his crazy sadomasochistic sexual fantasies. And he was basically using Janice at that point to act those things out. So he was, stringing Janice up by her wrists and beating her and then, having sex with her and whatever. And that wasn't really something that she was into anymore. She wanted to have kids. She wanted to have a family. So he gets her to agree to this agreement under which she would be allowed to have children. They could have a family. Mm-hmm. But he would be allowed to capture and keep a sex slave to take her place. Specifically enacting out his sadomasochistic fantasies. Initially, there was supposed to be no penetrative sex with the sex slave, but of course, after Colleen was kidnapped and forced to take that role, that changed. Initially, Colleen would be beaten, and then she would be forced to watch Janice and Cameron have sex with each other after they'd abused her. Actually, on the first night of her kidnapping, when she was strung up by her hands and physically attacked by Cameron, she was blindfolded for all of that, but then they took the blindfold off and had sex underneath her after having beaten her. Sometime after the kidnapping, the Hooker family moved into a mobile home, at which point Colleen was, instead of being kept in the cellar, she was kept locked in a box for 23 hours a day under the couple's waterbed until she was given a contract and forced to sign herself into slavery for life in January of 1978. And the box is described in multiple sources as coffin-like. Mm-hmm. I did find some pictures. I'm not really sure if that is the actual box or like a recreation. It wasn't really clear. But it was very small, fit right up under her bed. She couldn't move. She couldn't really make any sound. She had to lay perfectly still in this box for like up to 23 hours a day.
Fuck.
the couples, so the couple ended up having, Cameron and Janice ended up having 2 daughters, who didn't realize that Colleen was being kept against her will, and in fact didn't even know she was living in the house. For an hour or 2 a day, Colleen would clean the house. She'd be let out of the box to clean the house and babysit the kids. But the kids thought that she came over. They didn't realize that she was being
Holy
kept in a box
shit.
underneath their parents' bed.
I have no words.
Yeah. So, in view from the box underneath the bed, propped up against her purse, Colleen told ABC News in an interview, was a photo that she saw every single day of a woman whose name was Marie Elizabeth Spanicky. And Spanicky was a previous victim whose body was never found. She further stated that Cameron led her to believe that she was being watched by a large, powerful organization called The Company, which clearly he's not a creative fuck, is he?
The Company.
The Company, which would painfully torture her and harm her family if she tried to escape. She subsequently became referred to as K, and she was forced to call Cameron Master and was not allowed to talk without specific permission from him. He supposedly had read a book. I've never read it. It was a 1954 French erotic novel called The Story of O, which I've never read. But apparently he became obsessed with that novel before he started kind of engaging in all this, and his dream was to have her be just like the female character in that novel. And of course the whole agreement about there being no penetrative sex quickly fell by the wayside, and he began raping her orally. And he had this weird hang up about having vaginal sex with her because he felt like that would be cheating on his wife. So instead, he raped her vaginally and anally with toys, with implements. Yeah. There's a lot of weird lines drawn in places that maybe we should draw the line at consent instead.
Totally.
Maybe.
1,000%. I just can't even wrap my mind around someone who would have a thought process like this.
Yep.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. So Colleen said that her faith in God and belief in a chance of escape helped her to survive. Her greatest fear was the Company, this entity which Cameron reinforced daily. To avoid painful punishments, she tried to comply with all of his commandments, which later led to her getting more freedom. She was allowed to go out and jog, to work in the yard and help with garden work outside. She was allowed to care for the family's children in the mobile home and even help them build bigger accommodations. Basically, it was an underground dungeon for more slaves because Cameron Hooker's dream was to build this out into, more slaves.
In your mobile home?
I don't know. Maybe you should focus on getting a fucking job and getting you a God-blessed house that ain't got wheels on it. I don't judge nobody, baby. Mobile home is fucking freedom. I'm into that. But if your dream is to have a fucking cellar full of women, I need you to get up and get out and get moving, babe.
Was it a mobile home or was it a trailer?
It was called a mobile home in the multiple sources that I referenced.
Okay, I'm wondering if it's one of those.
But you know how some people don't understand, and it could be a trailer.
I'm wondering if it's one of those tin silver type deals.
Yeah,
vintage.
That's what I imagine because it's 70s, 80s type vibe. Yeah.
Where the fuck?
He's just fucking digging a hole underneath the fucking mobile home. Everybody can see.
And I don't even know how you would hide a whole human in a box. In a trailer,
for 7 years.
For 7 years. But I digress.
So basically, even with an open door, neighbors, and a telephone at her disposal, Colleen made no attempt to escape. because of her fear of the company hurting herself or her family. And a lot of people don't understand that about this case. They're shocked at, or they have trouble believing that she could have basically opened doors at some points during captivity and not run away, not leave, not get out.
Right.
Why would you not? But the thing that people don't take into consideration when they think about things like that is like your mind's not working right. You're being kept in a fucking box underneath a bed, first of all, in the darkness, and that level of isolation. That's why solitary confinement is almost like borderline cruel and unusual punishment, because the human mind is not made to do that. That just being alone in a space with no sensory input at all will break our mind.
For most people.
Add
not
on
me.
top of that, massive physical abuse, extreme sexual assault, extreme psychological manipulation and torture. And then just the fact alone that, like, one day she was, hitchhiking headed to a friend's birthday party, and the next day she was strung up in some fucking psychopath's basement or cellar or whatever as a sex slave and being kept in a wooden box 23 hours a day. Like, reality is so broken that, like, if you could go from a normal existence to that, then why wouldn't it be logical that there could be some entity called the company who is, like, out to ruin your fucking life? Like,
Right.
That could be totally possible
Right.
in that frame of mind. So I think when we look at any case that has to do with kidnapping or somebody who has been held against their will, you have to understand, especially if assault is involved, you're not looking at the situation through the same lens that they were looking at the situation through when they were living through it.
Right.
So your opinion is invalid.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
And we can go ahead and expand that to all forms of fucking assault. That if you didn't live through it and if you weren't there, your opinion is invalid.
Yeah.
You don't get to have an opinion.
Yep.
So, remarkably, this is the situation. Her good behavior, quote unquote, actually convinced Cameron Hooker to allow Colleen to visit her family by herself in 1981.
What the fuck?
Yeah. She did visit her family by herself in 1981. She didn't reveal her situation due to fear of the possible consequences, aka the company. Her family thought at the time that she may have been involved in a cult because of her homemade clothes, her lack of money, and the absence of communication over the years. But they didn't want to pressure her. They hadn't heard from her in quite a few years, in 3 or 4 years. And so, they didn't want to put pressure on her and then have it result in her staying away from the family forever. Because, of course, in their mind, she's staying away from them because she chose to.
Right. What does that say about this guy and his confidence and, like, the fact that he has completely manipulated her to the point where he will let her go freely back to her parents?
Right. I'm sure he got off on that. I'm sure he got off on that on that whole idea. But it doesn't say too much about his confidence because, he is a piece of shit. The next day, he actually showed up with Colleen for a second visit to her family and posed as her boyfriend. And there's actually a photo of Colleen Stan and Cameron Hooker together that her parents took. And they're both smiling and they look happy. And it was taken during that visit. And Colleen said later, she explained at the trial that she was happy. She was so happy about visiting her family and seeing her family that she was able to take a photograph there with him, happy and smiling together, because she was so happy to have seen her family again.
Wow.
Yeah. Can you fucking imagine?
No.
Yeah.
No, I can't.
So, according to Colleen, though, following the visits to her family, Cameron Hooker had a change of heart. He feared that he had given her too much freedom, and when he took her back to his mobile home, her punishments and torture became way more severe. He locked her back in the wooden box underneath the waterbed and kept her there for 23 hours a day for the next 3 years.
Shit.
Her bodily functions were dealt with by her using a bedpan, which she positioned under herself with her feet because she couldn't maneuver in the box very well. It was stated in court that his children were actually told that Kay, their babysitter, who they, knew to be the woman who comes over and babysits us, had gone home. But once the kids had gone to bed, he would take her out of the box to feed her and torture her. And she was reportedly not allowed to make any noise. She had to lie perfectly still in the box 23 hours at a time in the dark with very little air to breathe. And remember, we're in Northern California, so it does get hot. And during the summers, temperatures inside the box could rise to over 100 degrees.
Fuck.
So it wasn't until 1983 that Colleen was reintroduced to the Hooker children and the neighbors. And that was when, again, things kind of eased up a little bit comparatively. And she was allowed to get a job as a maid at a motel. She was allowed to work outside the home.
Oh.
And at this point, it seems like Cameron Hooker had a different, his vision kind of shifted a little bit. And he announced that he wanted Colleen to become his second wife.
Okay.
Like, it's all chill.
Okay.
We just,
All right.
I just been keeping you in a box.
Sure. Now, yeah.
But will you marry me?
Can I put a ring on it? No.
Yeah.
No, sir.
But of course, who would this be a problem for? This is a problem for Janice.
I was going to say maybe his actual wife.
Wife number one. So when he announces that he wants Colleen to become his second wife, Janice reaches a turning point. She said she, at that point, started struggling with herself. Janice is really tough for me in this story because it's like, okay, you were fine with everything until we reached the point of, she was going to be even with you. She was going to be a wife as well. And that's when you started having problems.
Yeah, like we just didn't think that this was an issue. I don't know, when your fucking husband came up to you and asked you if you wanted to, if you would let him fucking kidnap somebody and fucking rape them and fucking torture them and do horrible, disgusting things to them. Now this is your fucking limit.
But we have to remember that in some sense, the same dynamics are at play to a degree with Janice. She had also been tortured. She was the sex slave prior to Colleen.
Okay.
She had also been tortured. She'd also been brainwashed and referred to as a whore over the years by Cameron. She said that she survived their relationship by engaging in denial and compartmentalization.
Okay.
However, by August of 1984, Janice actually went to Colleen in order to inform her that Hooker was, in fact, not part of the company. She did maintain that the organization existed, but just said that Cameron Hooker was not part of it.
Okay.
And that turned out to be all Colleen needed. After that confession from Janice, she went to a bus station and phoned Hooker to inform him that she was leaving him. She said he reacted by bursting into tears. He begged her to come back. She subsequently caught a bus home, and in the months that followed, she didn't contact the police, but she continued to call Cameron Hooker regularly. And she said that at the trial, she said that she did this because she wanted to give him, at Janice's request, a chance to change, to reform his behavior.
I mean, fuck that.
100%.
No, fuck that.
there's so much about this case that's interesting from a psychological perspective, but this in particular is interesting to me because when you listen to the interviews, when you listen to Colleen telling this story, when you read the articles, this part almost feels like a breakup. It feels like a breakup of a consensual relationship.
Right.
Like, you say that you're leaving, he's crying, you leave, you're calling him regularly, and, like, you guys are, like, talking about things and mourning the relationship and blah, 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 blah.
Someone's gaining 30 pounds, the other one's getting thinner, that sort of thing.
Yeah. But that's not what happened. Clearly, that's not, one person has been captured and tortured and brutally abused. And, at this stage in whatever this whole horrible abuse is, Cameron Hooker's acting like a jilted lover. But 3 months later, after Colleen left, Janice reported her husband to the police. She informed Lieutenant Jerry Brown of the Red Bluff Police that Cameron had kidnapped, tortured, and murdered Marie Elizabeth Spinacki, who had disappeared on January 31st, 1976, which I guess was the first time they attempted this. Authorities have been unable to locate Spinacki's remains to this day. So due to a lack of physical proof in that case, no murder charge was brought against Cameron Hooker.
So
although we're pretty sure that he did it.
But he never admitted to that?
Never admitted to it.
Okay.
Not so far. So Chris Hatcher, a forensic psychologist and criminal profiler, testified for Cameron's prosecution at the start of the 1985 trial, and Janice testified against her husband in exchange for full immunity, which she received. In the end, Hooker was sentenced to consecutive terms for sexual assaults, kidnapping, and using a knife in the process, and he received a total of 104 years of imprisonment. He was originally ineligible for parole until 2023, but California's elderly parole program, which I guess, like, if you're an old dirtbag, they just try to get you out of jail quicker so you can die a free dirtbag. They actually were able to get his parole moved up to 2015. But on April 16th, 2015, his request for parole was denied, and he won't be eligible again for another hearing until 2022.
Declined.
Canceled. You have been canceled.
Canceled. Sorry. Who? Don't know him. Don't know her.
So Colleen suffered chronic back and shoulder pain as a result of her confinement throughout her life. After the trial, she received extensive therapy, and this is my favorite part. She got a ton of therapy. She studied for an accounting degree, and she tried to move on with a normal life, which is fucking awesome. Janice, Colleen also joined and volunteered for the Redding Women's Refuge Center, which is an organization that helps abused women. Wow. Janice retook her maiden name, became Janice Lashley, and became a registered associate social worker, and has also worked as a mental health professional. Both Janice and Colleen have continued to live in California, and they don't communicate with each other.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
I think it's probably best for both of them.
Yeah.
Not to.
Yeah.
For both of their, their mental health sakes.
Yeah. The reason that I asked if you had heard of this particular case is because this case inspired the main plot of the Poughkeepsie Tapes film.
Oh, shit.
That was based on this case.
Oh, shit.
And I know you like that one.
I don't know about like. No, I do. I do like it. Well, sorry, I'm just really full of... We're just really full of mixed emotions.
I just want to say that I'm not a psychopath.
Yeah, okay, I can see that. Actually, that was interesting because as you were like telling the story, I kind of like thought. I was like,
Right.
I was kind of having flashbacks to the Poughkeepsie tapes. So that's interesting. I didn't even research that or anything like that. I didn't research anything.
No, that was-
Not at all. I'm just here raw and unfiltered, like honey for you. Okay, now that everyone's officially weirded out. The Poughkeepsie Tapes is a very interesting film. I would definitely recommend checking it out. It is like found footage style. There are some parallels I can see to the story. So, yeah.
Yeah. It Colleen's case inspired
So this is something that I actually kind of want to bring this up because we had it like in our Netflix and Kill where we watched the movie Mercy Black and it related to, or they drew inspiration from the
case.
the
a real
the
life
case. And where you also have this where you have a movie like the Poughkeepsie Tapes that draws that took inspiration from this. The difference that I can see between the two, because I'm pretty sure there might be some people that might call us out for liking one film and then not the other because it's kind of the same. But I think the Poughkeepsie Tapes is far enough removed.
Yeah, it's
from
not a
the
play-by-play.
situation. It's not a play-by-play, like you say. There's more of like a serial killer aspect to it. Yes, there is like the sexual aspects, but it's more almost supernatural. It's just a different level. So I think while I got some inspiration while I got some hints from it while you were talking about your story, it was far enough removed from it for it to like be okay and for it to still be a good fucking film because it's creepy as fuck.
Yeah. No, I think they kind of took some plot inspiration from the real life case, but they took it in a different direction, and they didn't take it upon themselves to reorchestrate Colleen's story.
No.
They didn't. Whereas I kind of felt like in Mercy Black, if you guys have listened to the Netflix and Kill that we did on that film, it was literally a play-by-play of the crime and like some weird like retelling.
Yeah. Because then
that wasn't really cool.
Yeah, because in the Poughkeepsie Tapes, it's the guy is like he wears a mask and it's like he walks around all fucking contorted and like really fucking creepy. Yeah. So.
Yeah. And I mean, we don't know. Cameron Hooker could have been doing that fucking shit too. But yeah, I think like you said, they did enough with that film that it wasn't literally the same exact story.
Yeah.
Told in a way that's sympathetic to the abuser or perpetrator of the crime,
yeah.
which was my issue with Mercy Black. But yeah, that's the story of Colleen Stan, and you can see there's a ton of free documentaries that you can watch on YouTube. If you just search the Girl in the Box case, I kind of, having done this story now, I kind of hate that it's called the Girl in the Box case because she's not a girl. Like the whole point. And I think what I take from the story is, like, yes, she was psychologically manipulated. Yes, she was physically abused. Yes, she was sexually abused. And all of this horrible, horrible, awful shit happened to her at the hands of a man and a woman. Like, but she's not a girl in a box anymore. She's a woman being a badass, living her fucking life, doing her accounting like shit and handling fucking business.
Doing her
and
accounting
fuck that.
Shit.
Unfortunately, her daughter has had some issues with the law. It hasn't been smooth sailing for her, and I think that's really unfortunate because I hate that kind of like weighs on the story of like, the survivor, getting out of the situation and being a fucking badass, but that's kind of fucking life.
Yeah.
Like, like it almost makes her more authentic to me because she is just trying to live, And
right. I mean, you spent 7 years, the majority of that time in a box.
Yeah.
And to be able to, whereas for some people that would just completely
right, to even
break
be able to
them.
function fucking remotely in society is a monumental achievement.
Of course.
And you can see her in those documentaries, you know, she tells her story straightforward. She fucking, like, she's such a powerful grounding force in the way that she tells her story, because she isn't shrinking from it. She's not hiding from it. She just is able to kind of own that story, that narrative, in a way that you rarely see people who have been through extreme abuse of any kind. It's rare to see them be able to do that.
Yeah.
And I think Colleen Stan is very
well, it's hard to be able to
very
accept
unique in
it
that.
and also not deny it either.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just commend anybody who's able to go through that.
Yeah.
And
she doesn't let it
recognize that
define her.
they did, but at the same time, knows that doesn't have any power
Right.
over them.
Right.
That she holds the power, and she is the one in control, not what may have happened to her.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Wow.
No, it's very, she's a very powerful lady. If you listen to her kind of tell her story, it's very moving. I would encourage you guys to check out interviews with her. 'Cause it is very, enlightening, and it is very empowering, even if you aren't necessarily the religious type. I think there's kind of some sort of conviction for everybody in that, especially in a time when we're all worried about like stupid bullshit. Not that it doesn't matter what's happening in the political system in the world at large, but I feel like we get so torn up over that shit, and social media helps with it because it's a fucking echo chamber of like how awful everything is. And we get on Facebook and post about how awful it is, and then everybody else posts about how awful it is, and it's just this fucking echo chamber, and we're all like preoccupied with our problems. But the bottom line is that, like, you're not locked in a fucking box underneath a bed for 23 hours a day. So, like, get over it. Like, don't care about things that are happening, but like, if a human being can overcome that, you can deal with whatever bullshit that you're dealing with.
I'm going to make that my motivational speech for the week ahead.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, people like that are amazing. There's another case of a survivor who was abducted and left on the side of the road. I forget her name, but her attacker chopped off both of her fucking arms. And she crawled up an embankment to get to the road so that she could flag somebody down. Somebody finally stopped, and she fucking survived. And she's a badass. Like, people who survive things like that, I mean, and obviously no one should have to go through that in the first place. But like, I look at people like that and I'm like, okay, I don't really have real problems. Like, my problem is that Starbucks put too much fucking heavy cream in my coffee this morning, even though they know that I like light cream, and I selected light cream on the app. But like, I don't really have problems.
Yeah.
So,
just put it into perspective.
Yeah, it definitely puts things into perspective. So that's why I kind of wanted to tell Colleen's story, and hopefully, hopefully she can be somewhat of a beacon to people who have unfortunately had to deal with those types of things.
And I also want to clarify, like, things like this, I just don't want it to come across that like you have to go through these experiences to understand that you are, that strong. Like, she was always
right.
that strong.
Right.
Before any of that.
Right.
This did not birth her strength. I feel like that was always there.
Right.
You don't have to go through and be traumatized in order to be, a strong female or be any of that. Like, that, she was always that. but I think she has a much louder voice now to reach other people.
Right.
So
that's Colleen's story.
wow, that was a heavy one.
It is.
We might have to throw up next week.
We might. No, I've done enough of that with the stomach flu. Please,
I don't know
God,
why.
no.
I don't know why I said throw up. Oh my God! Don't ever mention that ever
No.
again. No. We might have to. We will have to lighten it up next week, which means I'm gonna have to do some fucking research on something. God damn it! Fuck my life. But you know what?
You don't have real problems.
I don't have real problems.
You know what? But you know what? I have a real problem with that I just did.
What?
I have noticed that it's kind of like an old man laugh that's like
Oh, when you trail off?
Yeah. Well, when it goes up, what is it? Why does it happen? It came with age, and I'm worried it's gonna get worse.
You're only in your 20s.
I know. That's my concern is that like when I'm in my 70s, it's going to be like, I'm going to laugh and then I'm going to be like, ah!
Yeah. No, I'm the one turning 30, but again, I don't have problems.
You might have a problem with turning 30, but
I
we'll
might
get
have
you
a
through
problem,
it.
but we'll see.
We'll get you through it.
You know what? We'll find out.
Hey, we're doing a thing in July. We should tell them about the thing we're doing in July.
We are doing a thing in July, so we're going to be up in that windy shit, yeah. The Windy City. That's Chicago for people who don't understand my
It kind of
fucking
sounded
bullshit.
like you said that windy shitty.
That windy. I was kind of going for that because I think we did say that one time.
Really?
Windy shitty.
No. That's not for it. Windy. Ooh, that's a bad combination, fam.
I think your guy from the
Not what you're looking for.
I think your guy from the shit store would love that. From your What the Fuck Crimes episode. No, we're going to be up in that Chicago area at that True Crime Podcast Festival with other really awesome podcasts there. It'll be us, some other people, Paranormal Chicks will be there as well. And we're going to come up there. We'll probably have like some merch with us and different things like that and have our own little setup. And it's going to be a fun, like, just a fun event. I know they've got a few like live tapings and some panels and stuff that's going on. But I do believe it is July, help me out here, Katie, 13th?
Yeah.
July 13th. Yes, I do believe it is July 13th. It will be at the, if I'm not mistaken, the Marriott downtown.
Yes, it's the Marriott, the Chicago Marriott Downtown Magnificent Mile.
Yes.
It'll be July 13th. Doors open at 9 a.m. and the official festival ends at 5 p.m. When the official festival ends, that means we get to get that after party.
Yeah, that's what you're going to come for. You will come to that after party. With the
Who did that
heart.
song? Who was that? And after the party is the hotel
I want to say that's R.
lobby.
Kelly, who is also...
Oh, that's
I could be
unfortunate.
mistaken, but
No,
I
I
believe
think it
that's R.
might be.
Kelly, who is also canceled.
Oh no. Well, we're not gonna pee on you.
I mean, no, we're actually
We're not gonna pee on you. I'm not. Even if you want it, I'm sorry. That's not my thing. I'll hit you
Talk to me, though.
if you ask real nice. It's not my thing. It's not really easy to like direct the stream. Anyway, we're gonna hang out with you guys after the actual podcast festival ends at 5 p.m. We're gonna do like a meetup somewhere in Chicago. So if you are in the Chicago area and you do want to hang out, let us know, and we will be at a local bar getting our drink on.
Bar.
And we would love to shoot the shit with you guys and
There you go with your shit again.
So if you are interested in getting tickets for the True Crime Podcast Festival, you can go to tcpf2019.com. And that's T as in Tom, C as in cat, P as in Paul, F as in fire, 2019.com to get your tickets.
That's C as in come, O as in orgasm, and M as
There's
in...
no O.
com.com.
Oh,
C as in
got it,
come,
with
O
it.
as in orgasm, M as in...
Call me Mama. That? Are you excited
M
about that
as in
Mama
Minnie.
movie? It's going to be a good one.
Mama movie.
Ma.
Ma. Oh, yeah, Ma.
Ma.
Yeah, we'll
Ma's
have to go
gonna be
see that
amazing.
one. We need to plan to go see that together.
Mama's a different movie.
I was
To
like,
Mama.
Mama. All right, guys. So that is it for our episode this week. We can't wait to see you next week with another episode that's hopefully going to be a little bit lighter and won't be so heavy.
We say that every week, though. In between
Unless
episodes,
we want to fucking hit you with that heavy shit again. You don't never know, motherfucker. We might do it 1, 2, 3, 4 times. It's our fucking show. We'll do whatever the hell we want.
I would prefer to keep our listeners alive and in good spirits. If
They ain't
in
good spirits
between,
because they just listening to us.
if in between episodes you want to keep up with us, follow us on the social medias for all of the bullshits. Instagram at The Haunted Heart Podcast, Twitter at The Haunted Heart, Facebook, you can search The Haunted Heart to stay up to date on all the news and events, and join our closed group so that you can meet other Haunted Heart Podcast listeners, because it is fun, and I understand that we're all fucking weird-ass introverts, but it really is fun to interact with each other on the closed Facebook group, because everybody else is also a weird introvert,
Yeah.
just like you,
Yeah.
and it's kind of fun to be alone together, in a sense.
Yes. And edit. No, I'll leave that one in. All right,
Oh,
so
God,
thank you
no.
guys.
But I did the real laugh. I didn't do the on-air laugh. I did that laugh that I just do for you.
For me.
Yeah, so in the meantime, you know what you got to do until the next appointed hour, darlings.
You gotta stay
Spooky.